9mm versus 38 special, and what I have today is our Winchester defense ammunition. This was formerly basically the Winchester USA or Winchester white box, and Winchester came along, decided to kind of differentiate between their target ammo and their hollow point ammo by making their hollow point versions of the white box into a black box, which is actually a pretty good idea. It makes it easier to tell the difference between, your target ammo and your defensive ammo. And what this stuff is basically your basic jacketed hollow point self-defense ammo. Now, I tested these two boxes here and the snub nose revolvers, and the performance wasn't too bad with our 9mm, to be honest, and a 2-inch barrel snub. But I think we're going to get a lot better performance even on top of that with our 5-inch M&P I'm going to use here. M&P 2.0 5-inch barrel. And in our snub nose, our 38 special +P, it actually is a +P, didn't do that well at all. In the snub nose, we got like something like 43 hundredths of an inch diameter expansion, and I'm thinking, yeah, well, we need to push that a bit faster in order to get good performance. So I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 to test the 38 special +P, and this only comes in a standard pressure 9mm and a +P 38 special. That's pretty typical because you don't really need a whole lot more velocity on a 9mm. Our 38 specials half the pressure of a 9mm, so standard practice is that most of your defensive 38s are a +P. That's just how it is. A 5-inch barrel semi-auto to test our 9mm compares very favorably to a 4-inch barrel revolver because the overall size is about the same and the bullet travel is about the same in those. So our 38 special is a 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point. We're rated at 945 feet per second. Our 9mm is a 115 grain jacketed hollow point. We're rated at 1165 feet per second. And my 2-inch snub, what I got with this was 1042 feet per second. Is what I got in the snub, even though it's rated at 1165. So I'm hoping to get a lot more velocity than 1042. And what we got here, I wrote them on the box here, 856 feet per second in the snub with our 38 special. So I'm hoping to get a lot better performance than what we got in the 2-inch snub. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. The reason why I do that is because oftentimes, when people put denim on their ballistics gel, sometimes you get cartridges that never get expansion, and I like to see, without getting clogged with denim, what they're supposed to look like before we move on to more of our real-world simulation tests. So we're going to go into plain clear ballistics, see what our best potential is, and then after that, we're going to do more of our real-world simulation. 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4-inch medium-density fiberboard right here to represent hidden ribs or sternum. That's more of our real-world simulation. And then I am going to shoot the steel target like I normally do to see what kind of practical accuracy, follow-up shots, recoil control, and all that I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have a 9mm. This is rated at 1165 feet per second. We got 1042 in the 2-inch snub. Let's see what kind of velocity we get in our 5-inch M&P here. About 5 yards from that target. 1115, 1122, 1132, 1120, 1180. So most of those shots are below the rated velocity, and generally that's taken through a 4-inch barrel, and we're using a 5-inch barrel. So, it's better performance than the snub for our velocity, but I'd like to see at least rated velocity through a 5-inch barrel. Now this is rated at 945 feet per second. We only got 856 in our 2-inch barrel. So let's see how close we get to 945, see if we get more than 856. So 38 special +P. 864. 959. 967, 960, 947, 963. All right, so that first round was really low, but then after that we got pretty much what I would expect to see. So sometimes you see that where you have one various round that just, for whatever reason, it shoots really slow. So we're close to rated velocity with both, but I'd like to see more with that 9mm. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, we'll do our best shot in the plain clear ballistics, no denim to clog a hollow point. So here's our 9mm. And here is our 38 special+P. Let's go take a look. All right, so definitely some difference here in our performance. We have less penetration with our 9mm, but it looks like that's because it expanded bigger, and we have more adequate penetration with our 38 special because it mushroomed out a little bit less than that 9mm hollow point expansion. So we have pretty good energy dump in the first 3 inches. A little bit better with our 9mm though. We are busting off pieces of that jacket with that 9mm in that first 3 inches. But we can definitely tell as we enter that main gel block here, we have a lot more expansion going on because we can see a lot of cutting right away. So that is dumping its energy really quickly. I like to see that because a lot of 9mm don't. And what we got for penetration though is about 11¼ inches. I know camera parallax will make it look like that bullet's further up than what it is, but yeah, 11¼ inches, and we have more busted off pieces of those petals in there. With our 38 special, it's more of a gradual controlled expansion mushrooming. We went to about 16¾ inches of penetration, and we have mediocre okay expansion. So it's kind of hard to say which one did better here. Obviously our 9mm kind of under penetrated, but it's not by such a degree I would say that that's performing terrible or anything. So let's put on our denim, put on our MDF, see how they compare in more of our real world simulation. All right, more of our real world simulation. 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch MDF. See how our 9mm does. All right, let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 38 special+P. All right, 38 special+P, more of our real world simulation. Let's see what this does. Go take a look. All right, so that kind of evened things out a little bit more. First 3 inches, about the same amount of energy dump between both of them, so the denim didn't really play into this. And this kind of looks like the expansion size I was seeing through plain gel also before it hit this MDF. Really big expansion with our 9mm, more of a slower controlled expansion with our 38 special. And we have good energy dump going on through there, a little bit lesser than what it was in plain gel with our 9mm, but we kind of want to see that because we want it to penetrate a little bit more. But in the end, it definitely looks like it brought those hollow points to more of a similar size between the 38+P and 9mm. So what we got for penetration with our 9mm is about 16¼ inches. And then what we got with our 38 special+P is about 16½ inches. So very similar between both of these when we put them in more of our real world simulation. So I would say both of these are doing pretty good for what they are. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them. I'm going to shoot my steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through our plain gel here. Here's our 9mm, just absolutely fantastic, huge expansion. We did break off several of those petals, about 2/3 of those petals did bust off. But we had such big expansion and we did not get jacket separation at all. I'd say that's actually not too bad. And when you're talking most self-defense situations, you really don't even need that 12 inches. That's like the minimum going through an arm, going through a bone in the arm to be able to hit, center mass. Most shots are going to be better served with more energy dump and less penetration with a front-on shot. So honestly, that's not too bad. And most of your shots are going to be, that's how they're going to turn out. Now, when we look at our 38 special, we had mediocre expansion. That's not bad though for what it is. you know, a semi-jacket at hollow point works a little bit differently than a jacket at hollow point. It more or less mushrooms out like a soft point, but because there's a hollow center, it does it a little bit easier and goes outwards. So not too bad overall. Now when we go through our medium density fiberboard, our 9mm changed in size significantly. Partly that's because the denim getting in that hollow point, you know, it shrinks its ability to expand out instantly, and then after we go through our rib simulation, it also can reform that bullet a little bit to get smaller. So even though that doesn't quite look like 1.5 times expansion, I'm not sure if it is or isn't, but it doesn't look like it to me, that still did pretty well because it dumped its energy, then it peeled those petals back, and we got adequate penetration without over penetration. So even though it's not fancy looking like an HST or Gold Dot or whatever, it actually did pretty well for what it is. Now our 38 Special going through our MDF, we definitely got the smallest expansion out of all of these. But again, it expanded a little bit, and that slowed it down, did pretty good damage, and we didn't overpenetrate. So overall, we got some mediocre performance. That's actually pretty good performance, though. So I would say overall, both of these did pretty well. You know, I can't necessarily say one did better than the other. Now, obviously, our 38 is more consistent. You know what you're going to get when you hit a target. 9mm can change quite a bit, but the only real change is that it just got really big and dumped energy. So that's not necessarily a fail on that part there. So I'd say overall the shootability and everything like that, our 9mm just a tad better than a 38, but both of these look pretty good. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, 12 yards from the target. Normally what I like to do is pull up, get a front sight picture on that first shot, and then start popping up rounds and see where they land. But after I got a comment from somebody that said, you know, their 12-yard groups is, you know, this big or something like that, I thought, and they were saying how terrible of a shot I am. I'm thinking, you know what, how about I just do some slow fire in one spot the way this guy was doing and just see how they shoot for me. So 12 yards. Let's see how tight of a group I can hold with these. 9mm. All right, not too bad with those. Especially when I'm shooting wrong with my wrapped thumb. 38 Special, let's see what this does. All right. I had a hang up on that fifth round. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was just sensing something on that trigger binding up. I don't know what that was. Once in a while that happens. Sometimes you get, you know, the rim of the cartridge rubs against the back frame of your revolver, and you get stuff like that. So hung up a little bit, but then I just pulled through. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit tighter grip than when I'm just, you know, getting that front sight picture and then just going like this. So I just wanted to share that, you know, I can group a little bit tighter than that. So let me back it up with these and continue to shoot at the steel. They seem very accurate, and see how they do for me. All right, 75 yards from the target. You know, the main reason why I do this is a little bit different than what a lot of people think. I think sometimes people think I'm trying to show off or something by coming back this far. Part of the reason is for fun, and part of the reason is, you know, sometimes if there's a little bit of difference between ammos, it will show a greater difference at distance. But really the main reason is because you'll see me doing this more in summer than in winter, because the trees and the lighting, it means I can't really put my camera the other direction. And I don't like to put it this direction when we're up close, because I keep all my trash and everything up there, and it just makes the camera clip that I get look absolutely trashy. So I like to come back where I have good lighting and all of that. So it's also a lot of fun. So 9mm, these were shooting pretty good up close. 75 yards. See if I can make any hits here. I meant to do that. Okay, I didn't, but I'll take it. Happens to me a lot. When I'm doing pretty well, I'll miss that last shot. So those shot pretty good for me. You know, it's kind of hard to tell where I'm hitting until I start getting enough hits on steel where I can see where they're kind of consistently grouping. I normally can't see one impact unless it's like a headshot or something that stands out. But 38 special. Let's see how this stuff shoots for me. All right, I only had 5 in there. I think I pulled out one to the left. So let me keep going. Huh. I don't know why I missed so many shots. Pretty much held the same point of aim there, and I started missing a few. I couldn't really tell where they're going in the dirt either, so part of it's these glasses and it's hard to see anymore. So looking at this ammunition through longer barrels, all did pretty well. You know, our 9mm, I would absolutely love to see more velocity. You know, barely getting rated velocity, which I think our average I think was below rated velocity. I haven't done the numbers yet, but considering this is a 5-inch barrel, that's not very good, because a lot of times what'll happen is I'll get a round that's, let's say I got a 9mm+P or something, 124 grain, and it's rated at 20 feet per second. I'll often get like 1310 or something like that in this 5-inch barrel. So being that, you know, I only got in 1042 in the snub, and then I get, you know, below the rated velocity in a 5-inch barrel when the industry standard for rating, and that velocity is through a 4-inch barrel, not so good. That being said, it performed quite well, except for kind of over expanding in plain gel. But in our real world simulation that I trust is how it's going to perform in a real world defensive situation, it did quite well. And because it's loaded kind of low, our recoil is pretty low and the accuracy is outstanding with this particular ammo. Same thing with the revolver. I would say it's just as accurate. Now, shooting here from this distance, I started to miss, and part of that is just me and the double action trigger. You know, it's a little bit more fatiguing to try to hold groups at that distance in double action. And also, you know, sometimes the velocity is a little bit slower once you get out that distance. There's a little more difference because it's not moving quite as fast. But when we look at the revolver, the 38+P in our ballistic shell test, it did, I would say, just about as well as that 9mm. So neither of these had fantastic performance. I would say our 38 Special had a little bit more consistent performance through plain gel in our denim shot. That being said, you know, you're not going to encounter a naked person usually, at least when there's not bones in the way either. So part of that bullet getting smaller and going deeper has to do with that rib simulation I put in there. So seeing as that's the case, I think both of these are pretty good performing rounds. They're not the best rounds here, but this is sometimes some of the better choices because you can get this stuff real cheap. You get in 50-round boxes. You can use the hollow points as your training rounds as well as your defensive rounds. You can swap them out, you know, periodically easier, and you can train with it, and it's very low recoil and accurate. So overall, they did really, really well. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.